Hello, I'm Josh Greenwood. In this presentation, we're going to start off with some observations on forging with both the hand hammer and the power hammer. Then we're going to witness a beginner struggle on his own before we teach him the mechanics of the loose grip hammer swing. Bear in mind that swinging a hammer efficiently is just the start. To get something done, the work has to be in a good place on the anvil. We have to hit the work in exactly the right spot with the face of the hammer at exactly the right angle. The work is getting cold, so we have to decide whether or not to up the tempo. On many blows, you combine direct impact with lateral movement. Do we want to push it or pull it more this way or that? The situation is changing with each blow. We have to see what has happened, analyze it, make a decision, and adjust before the next blow. Swinging a hammer can get physically strenuous, even with good form, but rapid decision-making is the real challenge of blacksmithing. The power hammer is not easier than the hand hammer. All this analysis and these decisions must be made at full throttle. Forging top rail from big round bars would be tough by hand, but for these big hammers, it's a snack. Notice that both hands and my lower body are shifting sideways and rotating the ball. There's a lot going on here that would be hard to explain, except to say that these dynamic positioning skills can be learned from hand hammering, where a mistake probably won't be fatal. Here we are, forging a personal hand hammer. Since this is not a production run, we are just coaxing it along almost in slow motion, crushing it in one plane and then flipping it 90 degrees to crush it back towards square, and then we're hitting it out of parallel to better establish the exact rectangular cross-section that we want. We're analyzing the effect of each blow and adjusting the position of the piece just right for the next blow. This thought process is ingrained in us from many hours of hand hammering. It happens unconsciously as we hammer. The finishing touches are about finesse, not power. In my view, the power hammer and the hand hammer are practically the same. A moving hammer striking the work over a stationary anvil or bottom die. As you begin to hammer more effectively, perhaps you will understand what I mean. The hand hammer can deliver any blow or series of blows at any angle, from any position, with perfect control right now. Here we see me feeling the curve below on the South German anvil, so that I'm forging this bevel on the top and the bottom at the same time, just like between the dies of a power hammer. Sometimes, perhaps after a slight error, you need to get something just right. The steam hammer is going to be too rough for this, and there's no competent striker around. But you're not out of luck. You do know how to swing a hand hammer, and you're going to get the job done. This piece was completely hand forged. One of the benefits of doing a little blacksmithing is that you'll be able to appreciate something like this better than before. You may find yourself looking for the forge welds and getting up close to figure out how the elements were made. I'm happy about some of the things I've done, but there's so much more to learn about and do that I often feel like a beginner. Many years ago, I really was a beginner who set out on my own to learn blacksmithing with no teacher, no experience, and almost no resources. Here I am in 1975 with my first completed commission for architectural ironwork. We cannot go back in time and relive my struggles. But recently, I spent some time with a beginner. It turns out that we both had a lot to learn. Please meet Carter Allen, who worked in my shop one summer and helped me make this presentation. He came to me physically fit and bright and capable in every way. Most of all, he was a good sport. We started out moving and setting up his first anvil on an old tractor counterweight. Big anvils are the definition of heavy. I handle them all the time. Moving one safely is a big deal, every time. In fact, every aspect of blacksmithing is potentially dangerous and must be taken seriously. I wanted Carter to adopt a sober and attentive attitude for what he was about to do. When the anvil wobbled on the stump, we decided that he should make a flat bar shim. Then we thought maybe we should be able to nail the shim down, so we added a hot punched hole to Carter's first project, forging the shim. As you shall see, neither of us knew just how difficult this little project was going to be. Here we go on the first heat. Carter's feet are in good position and his posture is also pretty good. His focus and determination are excellent. He is trying different things in an effort to be more effective. I could not ask for a better first performance. We can see that he's gripping the hammer tightly, absorbing all the shock and stifling the rebound. The hammer is only arcing 10 inches, its velocity is retarded. If you look closely, he is also hitting way back from the edge. Almost nothing is being accomplished. But what we see is only part of the problem. Carter's eyes and brain are not trained for blacksmithing. He can see the work well enough to hit it, but he can't spot and register the effect that each blow is making while he is hammering. It's happening too fast. Beginners have to stop, check it out, and think about it. Carter has stopped and he's doing exactly that. This is the beginning, for Carter, of the blacksmith thought process. Carter is trying to apply the lessons he learned at the anvil on his first 2 heats. He is trying to hit the edge of the bar. In deep concentration, he has tightened his grip even more and almost completely stifled the motion of the hammer.
Okay, so what I've been doing over the past few times, I've had to reheat it 3 times now, because when I started hammering, I thought that you needed to hit so much higher up on the bar than you actually do in order to get it to be a wedge, but really you just have to hit the tip. It's an interesting experience, and after the first time, I was like, oh, I'm hitting too high up. And then after the second time, I was like, wow, I'm still hitting too high up. Because you really have to hit the edge and just push down the metal, which I didn't understand, and I'm learning.
What Carter also doesn't understand here is that the flat bar profile we had chosen for this project loses its heat to the anvil almost immediately. There is very little time to hit it while it is really hot. Forging a thin flat bar like this is a trivial task for me. I had no idea how difficult it would be for a beginner. Carter starts off focused on his idea of hitting the very edge of the piece. This is not such a bad idea. He is hitting exactly where he wants to, but now the hammer swing is totally crippled. The part is getting cold and the baby blows are getting nowhere. In desperation, he cranks up the tempo. Carter managed to finish the taper part of the wedge, and then he went on to hot punch a small hole. The support stand was set up and everything was ready, but the punch we had just made was lightweight and inadequate. It got hot easily and bent. This operation with this punch was way over Carter's head. He struggled with it for 10 heats. He just didn't have the power and quickness to get away with using the piece of junk punch. The thin material chilled quickly, and it was a fiasco. My fault, and my apologies to Carter. We had spent over an hour with Carter working to complete these 3 simple tasks. We burned a lot of coal, reheating the steel 17 times. Perhaps I should have stepped in and helped him out. The plan that I had devised was fundamentally flawed, but we stuck to it. In the end, Carter survived, and I witnessed just how difficult blacksmithing can be for a beginner. The chisel was more substantial than the piece of junk punch. At this point, Carter had learned a lot and was getting better. He cut the part off in 2 heats and finished strong.
Hey! Woo! We got it!
In my shop, we often practice hammering on a piece of wood. It's easy to hit, it doesn't get cold, and we can concentrate on just the swing. I did about 10 minutes of instruction and coaching in this manner with Carter. The lights turned on, and the transformation was breathtaking. Carter started off on the first day hammering like this and accomplishing almost nothing. On the second day, he was hammering like this. Here are some highlights of the instruction he received. We concentrated on cocking the hammer for the full arm swing for maximum power. But I also demonstrated this super useful variation. Here I am snapping the hammer with no upper arm movement. This technique allows you to hammer effectively from any position. I've pegged my elbow now, and I can still hit. In the final analysis, anybody can deliver a light finishing blow. Beginners need to develop real power.
The grip is with
So it is
the thumb and the finger. That's it. The rest of these fingers are springs. They catch the hammer. The thumb and the finger have the hammer here, see? Yeah. And it basically rotates in between those. And you see these fingers right here are springs. They catch it from the top of the blow. Now watch it again. Here we go. Up. Cock it, down. Up, cock it, down. Up, cock it, down. Let it flop back. There you go. Just this finger and the thumb. That's it. Now let it go. Bring it down. Cock it and bring it down. Don't grab it. Let it cock.
Okay.
Bring it down. Cock it and bring it down. Hold this level. Cock it and bring it down. Go slow. Bend your knees. Relax. Nice! 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 Whoa! Nice! Whoa! Stop flying! All right.
After the first 2 days, we had a chance to reflect on what had happened.
All right, Carter.
Okay.
What have you experienced in the last couple of days?
So I've experienced moving from a place where I have no clue how to swing a hammer, or really work metal at all, or really how metal is worked, to a place where I'm pretty confident that I can at least make a wedge in about 1 heat. And where my hammering technique has improved a huge amount, and I can feel it having improved, because when I was not hammering correctly, I could feel the vibrations of the hammer move into my joints and really kind of tighten them. It was almost a muscle soreness, but in my joints, which felt really weird, and I had never really experienced it before. I just thought I was using different muscles. But once I learned how to use a hammer, I realized that it was really just wreaking havoc on my joints. Like it was, the vibration and the shock was damaging my joints and kind of vibrating the ball and socket until it was actually hurting. And that was a soreness. That was not a muscle soreness, it was a bone soreness, the tendons between my arms. I was overextending, and I was not as accurate as I am now, as well as I was just using a lot more energy. And now I can feel, with the technique that I've learned, that I'm actually using my muscles, and it being more loose allows my muscles to absorb it a little bit more, or not really absorb anything because my fingers are just loose around it. So really just going with it, and a rhythmic motion that's really tightening up my muscles instead of my joints.
Okay, a question. Do you find yourself falling off the form?
Yes. Yeah, definitely falling off form, just because I want to revert back to that more painful, more dangerous route, because it's more comfortable, because that's how I my brain kind of thinks that I should be doing it, / my body is tuned to doing it that way and just allowing my joints to take all of the pain. So I really need to focus on using those particular muscles, which I really don't use much, and hitting it correctly and with good form and with good posture.
In 40 years, only a handful of people have ever witnessed me at work in my shop. Carter had hammered his way through the tapered chin project the hard way, and then he had thoroughly pleased me with his stunning progress. I felt that he had earned a demonstration or two. These demonstrations had a couple glitches and then some quick recoveries that may serve our educational purpose well. We started off with Carter's tapered wedge project. We know this flat bar is going to get cold fast, so we'll have to use a little technique. I'm working the bar right at the edge of the anvil. Only the tip of the bar touches. If I hit a small area like this hard and fast enough, I can actually heat it up. 20 blows, done. Now it's flat on the anvil and I only have a few seconds to punch the hole before it's cold. 5 blows and I'm finished from the first side. At this point, I have to flip it over and drive the punch from the other side to clear the hole. Now, I have to punch out the plug over a hole in a support bar. Oops, the punch is bent, so I straighten it before continuing. The hole is finished, but the piece of junk punch is really bent. Now I'm taking single blows on a tall, hard chisel from an awkward position. The part is losing color. To get a hard blow to the chisel, I rock the hammer back to the cocked position and then snap it down. The loose hand grip is absolutely critical. A tight grip on a hammer would cripple the blow and transmit terrible shock. You would hurt yourself getting nothing done. In blacksmithing, the idea always is to do as much as possible in one heat. Some operations can be done, and actually can be done more effectively as the metal gets cold. Here, it breaks off almost like a piece of glass. Carter had never seen a forge weld, but we had made several tapers. They were not really good examples of a scarf, but I thought maybe we could weld them together. I generally do this alone, which is easier for me, but I thought Carter might enjoy being part of it. Technically, I should have just handed the bar to Carter and he should have placed it in the right position. Both of my hands would have been free. This forge weld was a riot. There I am, I look back at the hammer, shake my hands loose. The top piece fell off. So I put it back up immediately, and then I pulled it into proper position with the hammer before taking the first blow. Remember, the real challenge of blacksmithing is fast decision making. My hand is totally loose in the hammer the whole time, but there may be only 1 or 2 blows where I fully cock the hammer. Forge welding requires quickness and finesse, not so much power. I'm moving and hitting from different directions, optimizing my position and stance for the hammer angle I want. If you look closely, you will see all kinds of lateral motion. I push and pull the steel as much as I hit it. This may not be the prettiest forge weld, but that doesn't matter. It was hammered together, and like all true blacksmith work, it has an inherently beautiful story to tell. Thank you for taking the time to join us.